Hey, what is up, guys? Ghost Gaming here, and in this video, I'm going to be continuing the tutorial series, but we're not going to be doing Batmobiles this time. We are going to be doing something a little bit more complicated. Now, this is the first video of very many, so I hope I can get this series out relatively quickly and just kind of keep the information that I'll be talking about very concise and very straightforward. So basically this series, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be learning how to build Gotham cities. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer for this video and the following videos in this series. We are not going to be building full-on buildings or an actual city. This is just something that it's like a tips and trick type deal. So I'll be showing you different window designs, wall designs, and just talking about the basic kind of prerequisites that a Gotham should have. Now, this video is not telling you, oh, this is the exact way on how to build a Gotham. This is just showing you how I build Gothams and just my kind of thought process on the whole building Gothams in general. What I like to do, now, let's just pretend that this grass, right, is the water level, and you have about 15 blocks, down below, right? So the grass is your water, and so you're just on a super flat water world, right? Um, so what you would want to do is you would always want to start off with your streets. And for your streets, you're probably wondering, okay, how do I, what height should I choose? It all really depends on your district, right? So some people just like to build a non-district Gotham, it's just, Gotham City. There's no districts to it, and if you want to do that, that is perfectly okay. For that, you would want to start at your kind of middle point or your lowest part of Gotham. So, and if you want to take notes on this, you can. That is perfectly fine. So what you would want to do is go 15 blocks up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you would want to start 15 blocks up, or you would want to go 20 to 25. So you could either go 15 or 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, or 25. Either of these work. It all really depends on what you want to do, how low you want your streets to be, and if you want a subway system underneath. If you want a good middle ground, then I would say 20 to 25, somewhere in between there, would be perfectly fine. Or, if you want to go higher than that, then you can go higher than that. So let's just say this is our ground level right here, right? We're going to start off with the 15. So let's just say this is your lowest point in Gotham, and this is the lowest that you want to go. You do not want to go below 15. The reason for that is because you want room for terraforming. Now, I know this video is going to be very visually uninteresting, but it just kind of goes over the basics. This is what this episode is we're just going over the basics and how to really start a Gotham, right? So, now that you know the height for your street, we're going to get on to something a little bit different. How to do the street, really. So there's a couple ways that you can do it. First, we're going to start off with the sidewalk, as the sidewalk is very simple. It's very easy to grasp and very not so time consuming until you get to the detailing part. So I like to make my sidewalks either 5 or 7. Now, yes, this is for bigger scale. I'd like to say that the scale of the Gotham that I'm currently working on, which has these measurements, is probably just slightly upscaled from your normal Minecraft player model. So let's just say, we do our sidewalk, right? I'm not going to do too much of it, but we're just going to get the 5 one done, because you can translate what you want to do on this to bigger sidewalks relatively easily. So now let's just say you need a gutter, right? There's a couple of blocks that you can use, and what I recommend is either deep slate or stone. If you want it to look very natural, then I would go with the stone. If you want it to look, have a little pop to your gutter system, then use deep slate. For this, we are going to use deep slate, and I will show you actually what it looks like on the other end with the stone. So, yeah, you just start off like this, right? And most people, that'd just be it, right? For us, though, it's going to be a little bit different. So let me create another sidewalk here. That's 7 wide. And we're just gonna, do it like that. And do it like that. Now, I'm not going to be detailing this one. I will be detailing the gutter on it, though. So that just kind of gives you a basic idea. But this is the one that we're going to work with because this is my method of how I do it. Alright, so now there's a couple of ways that you could do your street as well, but we're going to get into that after we get done with the sidewalk. So you just have your basic 5 or 7 wide slab of sidewalk here made out of stone. And let me just show you a couple of the blocks that I personally like to use to detail. So we have andesite, gravel, cobblestone, stone brick, cracked stone brick, mossy stone brick, mossy cobble, and then I like to use a couple of other things, but let me lay these out for you. And then what else I like to use is stone brick slab, mossy stone brick slab, cobblestone slab, mossy cobble slab. Yeah, okay. And then just to kind of top it off, we use these 3 blocks to kind of bring it all together. So light gray carpet, and a stone pressure plate. So if we look at our sidewalk here, we're just going to grab our basic blocks to kind of start off with. Now, sorry if I'm paused for a second, I just had to move a cup out of the way. So we're just going to randomly break blocks. It doesn't matter if, they're all close or lining up. This is just kind of how I do it. Randomly break some blocks, space them apart, really. And then we're just going to place them in with andesite. You don't want to do too many with the andesite. You only want to do a couple, for just depending on the area, right? Then we're going to go in, and obviously if this is raised up, we would go under with the andesite of what we broke. That way the gravel doesn't fall through. And just do the same process, really. Not too much, not too little. Just the right amount, and maybe one more. Then we just place the gravel in. And most people would just stop right there, but we're not going to stop right there. We're going to keep going. So then with our cobble, then we break just a little bit more than what we did with the gravel. and I can use another right here. So yeah, we just place it in with cobble. And building Gothams like this takes a while. You will notice that it takes quite a long time to just build an entire Gotham City while trying to maintain the level of detail. So we do the same process as the cobblestone with just the stone brick. Then we do the same process with the cracked stone brick, but the thing is with the cracked stone brick, you don't want any of these stone brick blocks touching one another head on. So like, you know, you don't want it like right there. You would want to off-center it to like that, if they do have to touch. And if you want to leave it at that, that's completely fine. But, you know, we're here for the most amount of detail that we could get. So we're going to continue this process. And now right here, the mossy ones, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can put them together if you want, like I did right there, but you don't want to do it too much, you know? Maybe one block is okay, but not like more than two. Alright, so now we go in with our mossy cobble and just kind of filling in some of the surrounding areas that may need a little bit of moss, may not need. It's all just kind of trial and error until you figure out exactly what looks good and what doesn't really look good. So yeah, so that's our sidewalks so far. And if you want to leave it at that, that is completely okay as well. But I think that this does look nice, but we can go just that extra mile. So we get our slabs, and again, we don't do too much with the non-mossy slabs, or even with the slabs in general. We just kind of place about 4 or 5, give or take, and then we just move on. And also the slabs should never touch one another. If they do end up touching one another, then, you know, it's not too big of a deal, but it's definitely not a wise thing. So then we go in with our mossy cobble slab and just, you know, add a couple. And then with our mossy stone brick slab, because again that was supposed to be mossy cobble, but I just decided it'd be too much. So then we just add that right there. So if you do the slabs, then you kind of have to do everything else. I also kind of forgot a couple of other things. So we need spruce and that. So a couple more blocks just to add is 2 colors of buttons, one being stone and then the other being oak, spruce, or dark oak if you want. It doesn't really matter what the color is as long as it's not birch, jungle, acacia, crimson, or warped, or blackstone. And it can just be whatever, really. Alright, so we go on with our carpet. And now this, you know, with the gray, light gray carpet, you just kind of want to do a little bit, not too much. And then you want to go in with the gray carpet. Make sure you don't cover the mossy blocks with these. It's okay if you cover some of these blocks, but not the mossy ones. And I feel that that needs that right there. And then we go in with our pressure plate, and these can go on any of the blocks, again, not the mossy, and you don't want them touching. So yeah, let's put another right there. Okay, now if you want to leave it at that, that is perfectly okay. But again, I feel like the buttons throw the look all together. So the buttons can go on literally any of the blocks that you placed. It doesn't really matter if they're on mossy or not. It just kind of matters how you place them, just still keeping it random and still kind of adding to the overall design. And I feel like I can add another stone one right there. So yeah, so that's our sidewalk portion. And again, these are the blocks that we used. And now let's break these. And now we're going to get on to detailing this. So the gutter. So when you detail your gutter, you're only going to be using the stairs. But I like to use, for the deep slate bricks, I like to use these 3 blocks right here. Now, I know I just deleted those out of my inventory, a little bit redundant, but doesn't matter. So we're going to go in and break just a couple, not much, and place them with the cobbled deep slate stairs, and then we have deep slate tile stairs, and then polished deep slate stairs. So yeah, we just go in with the polished, and then we also go in, and keep in mind when you're detailing, it's just random. It doesn't matter how you place it or where you place it, it's just all random. And so let's just say this is your straight, two-way street. And so let's just say there's a building right here, right? And it's going to curve out. What you're going to want to do is afterwards, you're going to get a loom, a campfire, and scroll down to the hay bale. So you could either use loom or you can use mob spawners, but I don't recommend mob spawners. If you use mob spawners, then use the soul campfire. But since we're using looms, it really shouldn't matter. So I'm just going to find a random spot like right here, right? And we're just going to break down the stairs right here, then 2 blocks below. Place the hay bale, place the campfire, then place the loom. And then, obviously right here, you're going to want to fix this to look like that. Okay? And basically what you learned right here can be translated to over here for the normal stone brick, and I'm not going to do the storm drain because it's just, whatever. We're going to use a mix of these 3 blocks. Stone, cobblestone, andesite. So, and this is polished andesite, by the way. So again, we just break randomly, place the stone in, break randomly, place the cobble in, and then again, you just break randomly, place the andesite in. And I don't really like this look. It's a more simplistic look, but I definitely prefer this look for a Gotham. So now we're going to get into our streets. And streets can be a little tedious, depending on your area that you're working in. So like, let's just say if you have really tall buildings, like buildings that go up near the max height limit, you're going to want streets that are either 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. Let me just break these, because we don't need those anymore. It's already recorded on video. So yeah. And I know I'm working on the ground, but it doesn't really matter because obviously your height limit would be further up. So you'd be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, either 7 wide or 13 wide. And you can do anywhere in between these. Sometimes I like to go, instead of 7 wide, I like to go 9. So for this one, we're actually going to go 9. So 12, 11, 10, 9. So let me recount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Okay. So yeah, this is our 9 wide street. You never want your streets to be an even number. Always make your streets an odd number. That way you can, if you want to put the lines in the middle, which I don't recommend, unless you're doing a 13 wide. But if you want to put the lines in, go in for it. But that's just the main reason why we never do an even numbered road. You always want to do odd. So now there's a couple of ways that we can do this. The way I like to is to make the street flush with the sidewalk, and it doesn't really make sense, but it does look more aesthetically pleasing. So you can either do it one of two ways that I found, and we're just going to start off like this. So you could use either the gray route, which I don't recommend. You know, it's just not a lot of gray blocks that can work well with it. I mean, there is, but it just doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing. The way I like to go is the all black pavement road. So we're going to go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me recount that, because whatever you place, you always want to recount it just to make sure that your measurements are correct. Yep. And so we just bring this along the entire sidewalk that we built, right? And, you know, it may look very simple at first, but obviously we are going to detail it, and we're going to make it look really nice. And for the streets, I like to use a lot of different blocks. So, obviously our first block is black concrete powder. So then we get black concrete, coal, normal blackstone, polished blackstone, blackstone bricks that are cracked, and then we just throw in, I like to use brown concrete and brown terracotta. So we place that. And then for our other blocks, we use a blackstone button, which that is the reason why I said you don't use blackstone buttons on your sidewalk, because it can just kind of draw the attention away from a lot of things. The blackstone pressure plate, and then black carpet. So these are all the blocks that I use for my roads. And you're probably wondering why the brown blocks, and we'll get into that. So we grab all of these blocks right here, and same process as the sidewalk. We just go in, and for the street you're going to want to place as much as possible, but without them touching each other or being near each other. Mainly just to kind of add in a gradient effect. And sometimes when I do this, I like to go in twice just to fill in areas that I may think may need it, like right here. And right here. And right there. So like that. Alright, so that's our first step. Then we get into the block of coal. Same process. You know, and you make sure that you want to get your corners and your edges with all of this. And again, the coal you don't want to do too much, but you don't want to do too little, because it can look very weird if you don't have enough coal in your road. So, yeah, that's pretty good for now. So then we go in with the just standard blackstone. And this I like to place a lot of, just because it's very nice. It's a very aesthetically pleasing block. A lot of people beg to differ, but if you use it correctly, it can look very good. And I need one right there. Okay, so we just go in, place all of that, and keep in mind, the one thing you want to really hammer home with detailing is it needs to be random. And if you notice a spot that looks a little barren, you could just place another one right there. Okay, now we get into the polished blackstone. And again, we just randomly place it there. Doesn't have to look good at the moment, but trust me, it'll look good once you get done. Let me just look up. Yeah, we need some right there. Right there. I am going to place more of that right there. Okay. So, now we just go in, place our polished blackstone blocks. And as you can see, it's starting to come together like the sidewalk, but it still needs a little bit more. So we then go in with our blackstone bricks, and we just kind of, it doesn't really matter how it's placed or if it's connecting to any of the other blackstone blocks at this point. You're just kind of randomly placing and hoping for the best. And detailing does take a while to master. Even then, sometimes I do have to go in and re-detail stuff, or just add stuff to an area to just kind of make everything come together more, look less barren. And we just fill it in with the blackstone bricks. So yeah, most people would just stop there, but we're going to keep going because we like to add even more detail to everything. So now we just place these however we want. Okay, now we're just going to fill it in. I'm going to place one right there. Now obviously for your street you would have to add an underblock because of the concrete powder. Alright, so now that we have that, I'm just going to look it over, and I notice that I need a couple more spots. I just need a little bit more flare up, so that's what we're going to do. And this is a good part where, you know, before you add the other blocks, you just kind of see what area needs more of what type of block to kind of make it stand out a little bit more or blend in a little bit more. Alright, now we're going to go in with the brown concrete, and you're just going to place these a little sparingly. Not too much, not too little. And then we just fill that in. Alright, now we go in again. And some of these you do want to connect them, others you don't really want to. But it's all just a part of the process. And then you just place that in. And inevitably when mud does get released into the game, I will add mud to the streets. But this is just kind of supposed to symbolize mud. And I actually may change that. brown concrete over to this block, because I feel like it just kind of fits in with the more darker tone that I go for. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, so gray terracotta and brown terracotta are what I use. And then we get our carpet, pressure plate, and button. And with the carpet, you just want to go on the powder blocks just randomly, not touching one another. And then some of them can go on the other blocks, but not too many go on the other blocks. Okay, so now that we have the carpet in, now we add the pressure plates, which these go on any of the blocks aside from the brown blocks that we placed. Let's add some in right there, right there, there, right there. Alright, and now we place the buttons, and same goes, we don't place anything on the brown blocks, just because we kind of want to make them pop out a little bit, make it look like mud's there. I actually don't want that right there, I want that right there. Okay, and that's how you do a street. So, again, that's just kind of like the basic fundamental. Whatever you do on this side, aside from the storm drain, you do on the other side. Again, I use, for my streets, black concrete powder, black concrete, coal, black stone, polished black stone bricks, cracked black stone bricks, gray terracotta, brown terracotta, black carpet, polished black stone pressure plate, and black stone button. So now that we got that done, now we're going to get over another kind of thing, and a little bit of a criticism that I have for a lot of people's Gothams. I see a lot of people making their buildings like 50 blocks tall, or, 20 blocks tall. And for a Gotham, you gotta go out of the box. You gotta add elevation. So if you look at a city, right? Let's just say we have a city here. Nothing too much. But we just keep adding to it, right? Okay, so yeah, let's just say that's our city, right? You can see there's elevation to it. So at the front, it's shorter, right? But as the more you go back, it gets larger. And the same can be copied on the other side, where your middle is the largest of the buildings, and then it slowly declines down. So kind of how you want the spectrum to look is just with each block that you do, right, it gets higher and higher to a middle point, and then it gets lower. So that's kind of like the shape of your entire city. If you're looking at it from a far away angle, you would want it to get higher towards the middle, lower towards the front, higher towards the middle, lower towards the back. And that doesn't apply to the actual buildings, it just applies to the cityscape. So what you would be looking at from a distance. And obviously as your buildings get higher, your streets get elevated as well. So, and there's different ways of doing that, but I will talk about street elevation in a different video. What I am going to be talking about in this video is just the basic fundamentals that you want for a Gotham. So detailed streets, detailed sidewalks, and then what about like building height, right? So your building height, because I see people at their tallest do like 80, right? Or 90 or 100 for their tallest. We have close to 270 build height. And a formula that I use to get the most out of your build height, but again, if this is only for Java and Bedrock, if you are on the Xbox One edition or PS4 edition, and it will specifically say PS4 edition, you cannot use these blocks, and it is the command blocks. If you're on Bedrock, so that is Windows 10, console Bedrock, or mobile Bedrock, then you can use command blocks, no problem. The same with Java. So, with the buildings and the build height, with the flat world, right? Now, you can't create a custom flat world on Bedrock, at least as of yet. I'm sure that they'll probably add it later, in later updates, maybe not, I have no clue. But let's just say if you're on Xbox One, right? You log on to your Xbox One edition Minecraft, and you create a flat world where it is 20 blocks of water, 1 block of bedrock at the bottom, and 1 block of blue concrete. What that does is it creates a bottomless pit effect. Basically, it looks like your ocean is a lot deeper than it actually is. And that's a tip that I learned a long time ago, when I was building kind of mediocre builds. And it still works for the more advanced stuff. So yeah, with that out of the way, then you load it onto a realm. And, well, after you do it on your Xbox One edition, you load the world on your Minecraft Bedrock on your console, and it should be good to go. But let's just say you want it on Bedrock itself. You need an Xbox to do this, otherwise you're kind of shit out of luck. So, basically once you have your water world on your Xbox Bedrock edition, for Windows 10 only, you're going to want to load that world onto a realm. You can get a free trial if you never bought a realm before, or if you already have an existing realm, you can just update that realm, get the world onto your Windows 10 edition by downloading it off of the realm, and then switching your realm back to its previous world that it was on, and you'll have no problem there. So, now on to the topic that I was originally trying to get to without that little side note. Build height. So, for smaller districts, let's just say you're at 15 blocks low, right? You want your buildings to go anywhere from 70 blocks tall to 180 blocks tall. Anywhere in that range is acceptable. 70 if you don't want to put a massive amount of time. And only in this video I will show you one of the worlds that I am currently working on, and yes, it does have RTX, and this is my current Gotham that I'm working on, and it just kind of gives you an idea of build height, right? So keep in mind, yes, this is RTX, so it does look a little different, but it is the same builds that I do. So you can see 25 blocks above ground level, and I have 15 block water, so that's 15 blocks above the water, so 16 blocks above ground. So let's just say we're looking at the theater, right? Now it's not done, but I have the basic height of it, and this is one of the smaller buildings. The building goes up to 150 blocks from ground level. So 150 minus 15 is 145, no, 150 minus 15, yeah, 145, and then you could do 144 counting bedrock. And then this building, which is just slightly taller, but it's not the tallest building. And keep in mind, this is the middle of Park Row, so that's why my buildings are relatively taller, but I don't plan on making buildings smaller than these by any margin. So this is 180 blocks, or 181 blocks. So that's how tall these buildings are. And so if we go back to the tutorial world, excuse me, I will be right back. Okay, so now that we're back on the tutorial world and you got a kind of basic idea of building height for Gothams, those buildings were relatively tall, but it allows you to add more detail into your buildings. Now, without making this video too long, I will get into one more thing, and that is, what do you use for buildings? Like just the basic blocks for buildings. And there's 3 different types of buildings that you can do. That is just kind of standard, right? And then later we'll get into the more crazier type of buildings. I'm not going to show you the blocks that go well with detailing with them, but it's just to kind of give you preparation for the next video that I will be putting out about this. So you have your deep slate buildings, your stone brick buildings, and your brick buildings. Those are your 3 main types of buildings, and if you want to add a 4th one in, your 4th one would be your blackstone brick buildings. So those are your 4 different foundation blocks that you use for builds. And with that, let me check the time on this, because I don't want to make the video too long. Okay, yeah, so it's a 40-minute video, but this just kind of covers the basics, and then in the next videos it will be a lot shorter. So this has been Ghost Gaming signing off. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.